Kevin Kiermaier thanked the fans, the Blue Jay fans, for a wonderful season that he had, and I'd be so open to bringing him back, and I'm sure the Blue Jays front office would as well for next season, but he was kind of non-committal on that front, so I'll break that down on this episode of Jays Digest, as well as Brandon Belt. The end could be near for him, and he's on the brink of retirement, so we'll have that and much more coming up next. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. Hope you guys are loving these double uploads that we've been having lately. I mean, the support has just been incredible. You guys have really been viewing with vigor, commenting, liking. I mean, it's been going crazy. I mean, these past couple of days have made us feel a little bit better about the elimination of the Toronto Blue Jays just because of the interaction that we've been getting. So shout out to you guys. But we have some news on some current Jays, or I guess you could say some Jays that may not be Jays past this offseason. Brandon Belt, Kevin Kiermaier, they're both in different places right now in their respective careers. Brandon Belt is mulling retirement. It's possible that he played his last game as a Blue Jay. And it's also possible that Kevin Kiermaier played his last game as a Blue Jay because there's going to be a lot of interest, especially after the season that he had this year.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird because both guys, coming into the season, we weren't sure what kind of impact they were going to have, and they did speak out on their potential role on coming back. But before we get into that, make sure to hit the subscribe button. A quick note that 70% of you guys aren't subscribed, so if you hit the subscribe button, it would mean the world to me and Peter. And like Peter said, support's been unbelievable, and it helps make the Jays loss that much less painful, although it was a very, very painful season and a painful past week. Peter, let's get into the first topic. Let's get into the first topic now, which is Kiermaier speaks out and returning to Toronto. It's not the most positive thing, but it's exactly what you would expect from a veteran guy who, is coming off of really not a career year per se, but about as good of a year as you could have expected heading into his contract. And I'm happy for him either way. And this is what he said right after the game. He said, I'm going to let Ohtani set the market, and then maybe I'll let the cards fall after that regarding me. I'll listen to whoever has interest in me and go from there. And Peter, this is going to be the story of the offseason for every target that we make videos about, every target that we're thinking about. Everyone's probably most of them are going to follow after Shohei Ohtani's footsteps, who's due for a massive contract. He's going to set the free agency kind of dominoes and all the pillar in the tower of what free agency is going to look like going forward. And then he also tweeted this, like you mentioned, thank you, Blue Jays fans, for making me feel loved from day one. It was an absolute honor to wear that jersey every day. I cannot thank everyone enough. I had an absolute blast going to battle with the guys in the clubhouse. Gave it everything I had. Love you, Toronto. This, speaks more like a goodbye than a thank you, but I'll let you, take it over, Peter, and let me know your thoughts on this. The Ohtani thing makes tons of sense, and I would love to have him back, though. This makes it seem like he isn't quite committed to coming back yet, which makes sense given where he is in his career.
Yeah, well, this was just a marriage that worked out for both sides here. I mean, Kevin Kiermaier got to re-up his value. He stayed healthy for the majority of the season, which was something that he wasn't able to do towards the end of his time in Tampa Bay. So, I mean, those were two great things. He had a great year, and he was able to stay healthy, and he showed what kind of elite player he could still be if he is out there on the field. I mean, whatever the Jays did with him, he managed to capture some of that magic that he had in his prime in Tampa Bay, and he looked better than ever. His speed was great, his fielding was great, and obviously we know his fielding's going to be great, but he really upped it with his bat as well. He put more bat on ball. He struck out a lot less than he did in Tampa Bay. He was just a key cog in this Blue Jay team. He was probably one of the best 9 hitters in all of baseball. Ended up hitting seventh and higher up in the lineup towards the end of the season, but he was very important to this team. I do think the Jays need an offensive upgrade in that position, though. And I'm not saying I don't want Kevin Kiermaier to come back. I thought he was a great player, and I don't know where this team would have been in the regular season without Kevin Kiermaier. However, I do think Dalton Varsho is going to move to center field next year. That opens up a hole in left field, and we saw what a detriment it could be to your team if you don't have a big time bat in left field or in the corner outfields. I mean, George Springer was an average bat this year. He had a 102 WRC plus, and Dalton Varsho was 25% below league average. And it just shows you how much that could affect your lineup top to bottom if you don't have power bats in the corners. And I'm talking third base, first base, left field, right field. Those are positions you do not sacrifice hitting. And the Jays did, unfortunately, and it cost them. I love Kevin Kiermaier. I think he's going to get paid. I think he deserves to get paid, but I think the Jays need to find an offensive upgrade in his position that he's going to be leaving behind.
A very, very good point. And Dalton Varsho, before this season started, we were kind of thinking that he was our center fielder of the future after Kevin Kiermaier this year. No one could have expected the year that Kevin Kiermaier had. I mean, the hitting peripherals aren't great, but like you said, he's an elite base runner. He's an elite fielder. You can look at the left there. He had a 741 OPS, some of the best. Probably had one of the best seasons of his career. And the most important thing, you can look at the plate appearances there on the left, is his health, and he was healthy for the majority of the season, and that's all you could have asked for Kevin Kiermaier coming in. And when that signing was made, we did a live stream, we did a video, we were a bit skeptical on him playing every single day in center field, both for health reasons and production reasons, and he shattered the expectations. So ultimately, he may have priced himself out of Toronto. Not that we couldn't afford to bring Kevin Kiermaier back, but given what our team needs right now, like you said, Varsho is our center fielder of the future, whether we like it or not, most likely. And getting a guy in left field that can hit for a lot of power, and we'll be discussing tons of names as the offseason goes along, is something that we desperately need. We need home runs. Peter, we were talking about it before the video started. We need more power. We need more home runs. And if we can add one more guy at the very least to complement everyone else in our team, we should have bounce-back seasons next year. It's what you need. And I would love to have Kiermaier back, but I just don't know where exactly he would fit, because they're not going to bench Dalton Varsho for the whole year, given what they gave up for him. It would be an organizational failure, and it would also be, I think, a management failure, because Dalton Varsho, I think, is set to have a very, very good season, and he got hot towards the end.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a bounce back. And another thing that we got to remember is that the Jays are not missing a beat if Dalton Varsho lines up in center field for them
just as good of a defender
next year. Maybe their left field defense is going to suffer a little bit, but that's the position where you typically hide a guy who's a big
Lourdes
time
Gurriel
bopper.
Jr.
And
kind of.
exactly. Well, I'd say a guy with like 30 home run pop.
Fielding wise,
that's where you hide him, and he's kind of a big clunky guy out there in left field. That's what usually happens. Obviously, the Jays sacrificed a lot of offensive production for defense, and they accomplished their goal. They were one of the best defensive teams in the league. Their pitching was phenomenal, and the offense just couldn't catch up to how elite their pitching and defense was, and that was ultimately the story of the season. So yeah, I think Dalton Varsho is going to have a bounce back. I think he's going to be the everyday center fielder. It's unfortunate that we're probably going to have to say goodbye to Kevin Kiermaier, because he was great and a fan favorite from day one. But you need some more production up and down that lineup. As great as he was, he just doesn't fit, especially with the amount of pieces that you gave up for Dalton Varsho and the amount that you've invested into him. His value goes up significantly if he lines up in center field as opposed to left field. So I think that's inevitable.
I was like kind of on the train of re-signing Kevin Kiermaier for a while, but the more I think about it, and the more we went all the way on the defensive end this year, and before that we were off, on the offensive end. I think next year they try to find a bit more of a balance there, and putting Varsho in center field, you're not really missing much of a beat, like you said, in the defensive end, maybe a little bit worse, but he'll continue to improve. He's not super old, 26 years old, so very good points, and let us know what your thoughts are in the comments. I know a lot of you guys want Kevin Kiermaier back, and that being said, neither of us would be upset if he does come back. I would just hope that they get a slugger somewhere else. And speaking about a slugger that is probably going to be leaving, is Brandon Belt retiring. And Peter, I think it's safe to say at this point, whether he retires or comes back to the MLB, I don't think the Jays are the spot where he's going to come back. Whether he signs a one-day contract to retire with the Giants, who knows? Whether he signs somewhere, just for 1 year before he retires, we don't know. However, he did come out and he said it could be the end for him, but he doesn't know yet. He's going to talk with his family and see how he feels in a couple months on his time playing with the Jays. I enjoyed my time here. I enjoyed playing baseball in Toronto, which is about what every single free agent who's come here has had to say nothing but good things. So that's very, very good. Jays are kind of back on the free agent map. Peter, Brandon Belt, very, very, old for a baseball player. I don't know his exact age, high 30s. But what are your thoughts on that? He's probably going to 35. He's probably going to retire, especially with, the way his injuries were this season. Maybe he finds another team. I just don't see the Jays re-signing him. They need someone for a DH with, again, funny enough, more power. Brandon Belt was not necessarily a power guy who hits 30, 35 home runs. We need to inject power into this lineup. And that being said, it was a pleasure to watch Brandon Belt, aside from the first month where I absolutely tore him apart.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it would suck for Brandon Bell to go out this way, going down injured, and he didn't look like himself towards the end of the season.
No.
He was whiffing on a lot of hittable pitches in those two postseason games that they played, and you could tell his back was really bothering him. He didn't look right. He didn't look right. I hope he signs somewhere else and finds his game because he can still play a little bit.
Yeah.
I know he's not a big time power guy, but he only had like 400 plate appearances
Four. Yep.
or 400 at bats, and he still hit 19 home runs. So the power was there. That was
Very
his
productive
second
too.
highest. That was his second highest total of his career, 19 home runs. So yeah, not a bona fide 30 to 40 home run guy, but definitely someone that again, I don't know where the Blue Jays would be without his production throughout the middle part of the season. So he was great in his time here. He was a great veteran guy. Obviously, everyone in the clubhouse gravitated towards him, but he's a giant when you think of Brandon Belt. He's a San Francisco Giant. I hope he retires there. I hope he returns to San Francisco, even if it's just for a day, and retires there because it would be fitting. He's a legend in the Bay Area. Great. He had a great season here. He really kind of rejuvenated himself after a down year last year. But like you said, Nick, the Jays need more power. And I think some of the guys that are on the team currently need to sort of inject some of that power back into their swings. But it wouldn't hurt to go out and get a guy who can slug 35 to 40 home runs either. I mean, it's a pretty good solution right there.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, looking at his stats this year, he played very, very well. Hit the ball very, very well. Fielded fairly well given his injuries, and you can look at the OPS there. Following a very, very down 2022 year, you're right on the money. 404 plate appearances, he had an 859 OPS. So he's a guy who I wouldn't mind seeing back, and hopefully he'll be able to come back soon. But that'll wrap up the video. Again, your support has been unbelievable. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to check out our last video and the shocking reason behind Gosse Berríos getting pulled, you can click the video that's on your screen right now. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow when Ross Atkins has his press conference. So we'll be loading you guys with videos tomorrow. So excited to see what he has to say or what he doesn't have to say, depending on what happens. See you guys tomorrow.